Welcome to Manderlay. This is the house that embodies all the features of West Indian architecture, all the special details of fretwork, and it was the dream house of Claudius Thomas, who was the High Commissioner for the Eastern Caribbean. So this is it. Come on in, have a look around. This house is a dream for a person like myself who is a hoarder and a collector. I like to think collector more. So this is what we call the great room. And it's a very tall, airy room. It has little tiny stained glass windows in various places, a wonderful parquet floor. We have traditional furniture of the Caribbean. For instance, the planter's chairs, where you put your legs up, you put your arm out, and you come along, you rest your legs on the chair. And believe me, I have fallen asleep many times in these chairs. And all the furniture you see has mostly been bought at auction in Barbados. The chaise is very typical of Caribbean furniture. And when I bought it, the caning was very bad, but the local blind workshop here made a lovely job of it, redoing it. In here we have an old travelling chest, a desk in fact. It just closes up like that, but it opens out and then you carry it with you. There's your writing desk. Pretty little mirror. I don't know where it came from, I bought it at an auction, but that's the sort of thing that sort of makes the house very decorative. That's an old desk from a house in Barbados. And this piece I actually bought in an antique shop in Camden Town. And because I just thought it would be absolutely right, and it's got a secret drawer in it. The blue and white china is a collection of many years. We have Delft, 19th century Chinese, and I think that's a modern one at the back, but these two are the ones at the back are old. We even have a cannon or two, which they're actually old starting cannons, but they make great doorstops. This little table here is a very pretty work table. I think it was probably made in Barbados, but it's a charming piece, and I think we use it to keep the keys in. This is the best piece of all, this lovely dining room table. I don't remember how we actually heard about it, but it was in the barn in Barbados for about 50 years in pieces when we bought it. And I restored it, and it took me about a year, I think. And, but we've had the most wonderful dinner parties, and Christmas, birthdays, anniversaries. It makes a great place to celebrate something here. The chandeliers are my real favourites. I love chandeliers, and I was lucky enough to find these in Bonhams in London and during the Gulf War, because nobody was buying anything, so I got them very, very cheaply, but they're very, very nice. And the two main ones in here they're actually a pair, and this one came from the same house, but it is still of the same period, which is about 1890. The prints we have on the wall are actually very interesting because they were done by a Lieutenant Calley, who was garrisoned here during probably the late 18th, early 19th century. And they are of views of St. Lucia. Of course, we're all very used to them now, but in a period when probably 1815, 1820. And the mirror between the prints is Georgian. And although it's very distressed, that is the original glass. And I managed to bring it back to St. Lucia on my knee on the aeroplane, something you couldn't do nowadays. We have parties here. The floor is a fantastic dance floor, as well as it's being very nice to walk barefoot in. And the rug is a local rug, locally woven rug. And There are all sorts of little bits and pieces around the place that somehow belong to the period. The dinner service we have is spode, and I think it was collected by a family in Barbados. So it makes a very nice setting for the dinner parties. The blue and white dinner service, the spode, is quite touching in a way because lots of the plates have different year marks on them, and I think a family must have collected them. So it's really nice that I've been able to keep it together, if you like, and use it because I think it had been put away for best, but we use it a lot. And the similar thing with the silver. I bought the original few pieces in Barbados at an auction, and it turns out that they are from 1944, American, and it just adds a little detail to the feeling of the dinner service. And this wonderful object, the epergne, I think you say, was actually belonged to Claudius, who intended to bring it into this house. And when he died, I was able to buy it from his estate, and we keep it here on this table, so in memory of him all the time. And this amazing piece belonged to somebody in Barbados. I don't know who. It's got a coat of arms on it, but the other side, it's very grand and looks very good on the table. And so it gives me an opportunity to collect things. These gas lamps I find very interesting because they're actually mid-Victorian. This little painting I bought in an auction house in Paris, actually, for the princely sum of €10, but it's a very sweet little painting, so it found a home here. This barometer was in my mother's house in England, and it was given to great-grandfather in, it's marked 1898, and it still works. In fact, it's a very, very good barometer. This photo brings back wonderful memories because this is the great party house. And in this photo, it's many years ago now, my mother and my best friends, we are at a party and we're having a great time. And that's what Manderley is. It's a great house for a great time. One of the lovely things about Manderley is the fretwork that we have around the house. It represents the fleur-de-lis of France, the marguerite of St. Lucia, and the rose of England. Sort of the main history of St. Lucia is the battle between France and England for possession of it. And we put all these different elements together to make this gingerbread, and the motifs are continuing throughout the house. This is the master bedroom in the tower building, and the bed is a wonderful Georgian bed, belonged to Claudius, and I'm very glad to say it's here. This armoire is made in Barbados, probably in the Victorian period, but it's very nicely done with the sort of mahogany that is no longer available, I'm afraid. But it's a wonderful piece, and again, it suits this room very well. Here is another chaise, which was made in Barbados as well, and recaned here in St. Lucia. And this sweet little mirror, which I usually put some candles in, was in my mother's house for a long time, and this piece of furniture is interesting. I am told that it's a wig stand, and presumably there was some sort of a model head that the wig would rest on, and that would be the gentleman's place to put his wig on. All the fabrics on the bed are actually French, from a company called Manderlay, and somehow French colours are so pretty. And these are the special mosquito nets if people feel they need them. And this little bathroom is quite unusual because the bath is placed so that when the windows are open, you can see the Caribbean from one window and the Atlantic from another. And that was one of the stipulations to the architect that Claudius wanted to be able to sit in his bath and see both oceans. So come downstairs and see the most unusual room in the house. This room has absolutely no windows, and so therefore it is the air-conditioned room in the house. It was built by a company called Crowthers of Sion in England, and the drawers behind the cupboard doors are made of sandalwood to house rare documents and maps, which was what Claudius Thomas was collecting. And but it's made a most wonderful den for us. We even have our own coat of arms, which is two mountains, the Pitons, carved into the chimney piece, except that the chimney piece houses an air conditioner. This is another piece of stained glass, and it is of the soldier in 1815 of the West Indies Regiment. Claudius had a dream and wanted to build this house. Fortunately, even though he died before it was finished, I was able to finish it. He wanted it to be called Manderlay because there is a 1930s novel called Rebecca, and he always felt that the lines that open the book, "Last night I dreamed I went to Manderlay again." And he said, when I build my house, I'm going to call it Manderlay. So that is where the name comes from. And here is the real book.